Welcome to the channel. Mystical legends, sorcerers, witches, and sorcerers. They have secret knowledge, but few of them will tell the truth about the price a man will have to pay for excessive curiosity. I will tell you everything I know about the mysterious world of magic. My job is to warn, but the choice is of course yours. These chess sets were made in the past century by one of the best masters commissioned by a wealthy chess lover. And strange things began to happen to him immediately after the board and pieces had found their owner. He locked himself in his house and played by himself all day long. However, some people claimed that the devil himself became the athlete's rival, and soon failed to defeat an unseen opponent, and the chess player mysteriously died. Arthur simply adored his grandfather. The grandfather spent a lot of time with his grandson. He always had answers to all the boys' questions and time for games and entertainment. And that day, Carl, as the grandfather's name, was offered to teach Arthur to play his favorite game. The boy was immediately fascinated by the black and white checkered field, kings and queens rooks, a real fairy world. First, grandfather told him the names of the pieces. Then he showed how each of them moved. And when Arthur memorized all this, the real magic began. A fascinating and gambling game. For his grandson, as well as for his grandfather, chess became the love of his life, and Carl was the strongest and most interesting opponent and faithful trainer. Carl's anniversary was approaching. Arthur knew what to please his grandfather with. He found a very rare chess on the internet auction. The description indicated the 60s, the time when Carl was a boy and was learning to play. Maybe he had similar chess. Grandfather's birthday was celebrated in the warm family circle. He did not like restaurants. It was considered that no one would cook better than his wife Ines, and baking was unequaled. After everyone had tasted the birthday cake, Arthur gave grandfather a present. He was overjoyed. He appreciated the original and delicate work, and Arthur was happy that he managed to please his beloved grandfather. The next time Arthur went to visit grandfather and grandmother, only in 2 weeks, Grandmother Ines complained that grandfather was ill. He was very weakened, laying all the time. Arthur was worried about grandfather like he had never seen. Grandfather complained of his heart, shortness of breath, and general state. Arthur's sight fell on the chessboard which he had presented to grandfather. There was an open notebook with written moves near it. The boy was reaching for a piece, but his grandfather sharply pulled him away. Arthur even flinched. He never raised his voice in his life. His grandmother Ines was also caught in the heat of the moment. His wife accidentally brushed chess pieces off the table, so grandfather was beside himself and shouted that no one dared to touch the chess pieces. Arthur was seriously frightened. What happened? With his always calm and steady grandfather, but he only brushed it aside. Old age is not a joy. They will have to put up with the disadvantages of his age. The chessboard did not give rest to the boy day or night. He had a feeling that all around was a black and white space which had no end. Arthur did not know where to go and how to get away from the playing field. Suddenly, he stopped feeling the support under his feet. He began to fall into some infinite and hopeless darkness. Arthur woke up in horror. He had never had nightmares in his life. The dream was so realistic, his heart kept beating furiously. Strange visions began to pursue Arthur, and even in reality he saw the records of some chess moves, the combination of which he had never seen before. The guy became anxious, wondering if he was going crazy. As soon as Arthur went to sleep, he wrote out the same endgame with a madman frenzy. He wrote down move by move, but he couldn't understand why this combination appeared to him for the second time, and how to get rid of the obsession. Arthur woke up in a cold sweat and tried to restore the position from memory. He had to find out what was going on with him, why this nightmare distressed him. Carl felt even worse. His grandson caught his grandfather at the chessboard. He was looking over his notes with the variants of solutions again and again. Arthur insisted that his grandfather explain him what the matter was. Carl sighed. Arthur could not believe him, but he began to say that the chess pieces moved on the board by themselves. They answered their moves. Someone unseen played with Carl. He would not have believed it himself if someone had told him so. His wife laughed, called him old fools, and ordered to drink valerian. But once Innes left the room, the pieces began to attack again. It was a very difficult game. Nothing like that Carl had never seen before. He just did not know how to answer such an ingenious opponent man day and night. He was leafing through reference books, developing new combinations that came to his mind, calculating variations. Carl lost peace and sleep, but all to no avail. Each of his attempts to get closer to the opponent's king ended in failure. With each piece he ate, Carl was getting worse, as if the rival ate not a pawn or a rook, but the strength and health of the old man. Arthur did not know how to react, but he had no ground to disbelieve him. He saw that Grandpa was really getting very bad. As soon as Arthur went to the kitchen for water, Grandpa had a heart attack, and then Arthur saw with his own eyes a piece on the board played its move and ate his next pawn. Then Arthur was speechless. Grandfather came to Arthur, said that he too had seen the pieces moving on the board. The grandfather was desperate. He showed his grandson his calculations and the scheme of moves over which he had been fighting for a month. Carl was convinced he would not be able to win the game. Arthur tried to calm his grandfather, but he was shrinking inside from pity and fear for the closest man. Arthur was determined to do everything to save his grandfather, and to win this game, he studied grandfather's record and made a trial move. His opponent responded. Arthur made another move and seemed to be successful, but his piece became the victim. At this moment, the telephone rang. Grandfather had another attack. Arthur rushed to hospital. Grandfather fell into a coma. The doctor explained that given the patient's age, he could give the most unfavorable prognosis. Arthur sat heavily on the bed, unable to believe that he too had fallen prey to unknown forces. Arthur burst into his grandfather's room. He was filled with hatred and decided to destroy the damned chess. He would not let them take his grandfather, but he was again literally twisted in a fit of acute pain. He reached the kitchen and found the needed medicine. He greedily swallowed water. He felt really bad, mate. Some noise was heard from the room. Arthur looked around grandfather's bedroom and was horrified. Everything was turned upside down and the pieces were standing on the board the same way as before. Arthur understood. If he did not find a solution, both grandfather and he would die. The young man was trying hard to understand where his mistake was, what he had to do to win. He looked through the whole internet searching for similar games and suitable combinations, and it seemed he had found it. Arthur reached the board table on shaky legs. Hope flickered in his soul. One had to concentrate his thoughts and do everything as it was described. Dilaram Matha. This combination was suggested in the 16th century by his wife to one Persian vizier who had lost all his fortune in chess. Sacrifice both of his lines and save me. Wise Dilaram told him. She was the bet of that game. It seems Arthur's secret opponent bought it. One rook was eaten. The fellow gathered the last strength, checked his notes, and offered the second rook. The opponent took the bait, and Arthur nearly fainted. He struck the final blow, put the checkmate, named after the vizier's wife, Dilaram. Very soon, Carl recovered. The grandson saved the grandfather. Arthur was still uncomfortable with his gift that could kill him and his beloved grandfather. Together, the grandfather and the grandson decided to throw away the damned chess, to destroy them, that no one from the fans of this ancient game suffered anymore. I do not think that ever again this young man will want to play a game of chess. Let's hope he will find a less dangerous hobby, though who knows what temptation awaits him in front. Every man has a choice between good and evil, between life and death. The main thing not to miss the decisive moment and not to make a mistake, because while a man is alive, he has a chance to correct his mistakes.